Shanti, Sister Jayanti. And welcome to everyone. So yeah, nothing much to say. I'm happy you've come early. So thank you for your time, Sister Jayanti. In fact, there was one comment from somebody that we ask you simple questions, but you give us profound answers. So that's nice. Thank you, gentlemen.
Om Shanti. And this is a significant Murli because it's the second time that Baba's mentioned how it's Baba Sakash that's allowing the body to function. And so last time also Baba said we'd have to reduce the number of hours. The time allocated to each one has to be shared with others. And even if Baba says just a couple of words, it's okay. It doesn't reduce the love in his heart. So Baba was preparing us then and again in this one, making us aware that the chariot isn't too well. And of course, none of us understood that it was actually something very serious. And in the next few days, then Baba explained everything further, still not telling us what it is, but you'll hear that as time goes on in the next few weeks. But in this one, it was a very powerful signal, and Baba really wanting to complete the whole quota of everybody who's there for a personal meeting, which basically was the ones from abroad. And so people from abroad, Brahmins from abroad, have had a very, very special sustenance from Baba. And yes, all those blessings that Baba spoke individually, but for also all of us. We'll take that up in a few minutes later. But here, Baba looking at the constellation of the stars, the ones who are giving light to the earth, the elevated ones, the ones who are bringing light into the world of darkness and showing souls the right path. And Baba was saying that it's the sun of knowledge, the moon of knowledge, and the lucky, lovely stars that Baba is seeing. And sometimes when Baba used to say Gyan Surya, the sun of knowledge, it meant Shiv Baba, but also at times it meant Bab Dada. When it meant Shiv Baba on his own, then Chandrama, the moon of knowledge, was Brahma Baba, the senior mother. Chandra Ma, the word mother comes there. But sometimes Baba would mean Bab Dada as the son of knowledge together. One can't play their role without the other. And then the moon of knowledge was known as Mama. And all of us, of course, the lucky, lovely children. And Baba was very generous. And Baba said, all of you are the stars, but each one with their own speciality. And on the basis of what effort they have made and the experience they have taken from Baba, that fruit of that experience is what you share with others. And of course, we see that that is so true. If I'm just memorizing and repeating words, it's not going to be effective. But if there's something I have taken from Baba and I've used it personally in my life, and I share that on the basis of my own experience, yes, then the arrow is more likely to hit the target. And I'll be bringing other souls closer to Bab Dada also. And then Baba mentioned that apart from the lucky and lovely ones, there are some that are very close, some that are the stars of success. And in that, Baba said, the stars of success are the ones who don't have to make any effort in an external way with hard work, but because they're so close to Bab Dada, and because they feel that success is their birthright, with that faith and intoxication, they're actually able to move forward without any labor. And then, yes, the effort, the labor is also number-wise, but it really depends on that sense of closeness to Baba. And so the closer I feel to Baba Dada, the easier it is to actually become the one that's able to go further and further beyond without any labor, any struggle, and each one then number-wise within that. But you must have noticed over the many Murlis you've been hearing that Baba appreciates the fact that souls are able to keep a high consciousness so that then everything becomes easy for them. And the reason why it doesn't always feel easy, but sometimes feels laborious, is because the consciousness has come down a little, the awareness is not so high, and so everything becomes more of a labor, more of an effort. But what Baba would like to see is souls being able to have the highest consciousness, the highest awareness, and so to be able to glide through, fly through without any labor. Baba doesn't like to see his children with sweat and blood. He likes to see his children very happy and light and easy. And so Baba then also expanding that the brightness of the stars is very different, which is what we see in terms of the constellation in the sky. Baba sometimes calls us the stars of the earth, but the other stars up there are the constellation in the sky. And yes, some stars have a bright, bright light. Others have a brightness, but not as much as some of them. And then there are some who actually one moment you're seeing it, and the next moment you see a shooting star, you see a star that's falling. Or sometimes you see a comet, you see a star, and it's got a long, 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 long tail. And so Baba's got an explanation for both of those on the spiritual level, of course. So sometimes somebody seems to be shining brightly, but somewhere along the line, something has happened and there's a crash. And so that star comes shooting downwards. But the stars with the tail, the comet, these are the stars who have many, many questions. And there are two types of questions. One is a question of inquiry, in which I'm clarifying Baba's versions, Baba's explanation of Gyan and Yoga. So that's fine. That's not a comet star. That's clarification so that then I can use that understanding for effort. But the other type of star, again and again, why is this happening? It shouldn't be happening like this. Why did it have to happen like that? If only it had been this, but everything's okay, but. And so these are the questions that keep arising. And until I get to the point where I realize that I have to learn to accept the drama, then I won't keep saying, what if, but maybe they should, or why did this happen, or any of those things. All of those questions use a huge amount of time and energy, not only on the person who's questioning, but of course they take their questions to many other individuals. And it isn't even that they take their questions to one individual. Their questions go here and there, and whoever they're meeting, whoever they're sitting with, the same questions come up. And so a lot of internal disruption. Why, what, if, but, maybe, if only. But also they become instrumental in sowing the seeds of doubt in others, but also in distracting them, even if it's not doubt that's coming in the intellect of those whom I'm talking to, but certainly it's again a waste of their time and energy and a real distraction. And so what was the fate of those souls? At the moment, Baba's seeing them as the stars with a long, long tail, but of course the future also if time hasn't been used wisely, if I carry the burden of having wasted the time of others, what does that mean for me? And so Baba very clear about all of this. And so let me see, how close am I to the mother and father? Let me see, what is it that I need to do further to actually come very close? But also, the closer I am, the greater the inspiration I'll have with which to be able to serve others, and the greater the inner power I'll have to be able to change the minds of others. Baba spoke about this and said, some stars have that capacity to be able to change the minds and hearts of others. So we are not doing it for selfish motives. I know that in Lokik life, people who influence the minds of others don't always have very elevated motives. They have selfish interests, probably. But in this case, Baba's saying that your pure thoughts, your highest consciousness can change the minds of others and bring them closer to God also. So always, always remember that you're not just a lucky and lovely star, because there's millions of those, but I am a star of success. Success is my birthright. And with this intoxication and with this power from Baba, yes, everything's going to work out and it's all going to be absolutely fine. And so drama will be such that I won't need to have questions of why, if, what, but as things are unfolding, I'll be understanding and appreciating the significance of them, but also I'll be giving that explanation of understanding in a deeper, more meaningful way to others who I can see have these questions. So first is to resolve these questions from within myself. And then the second would be to help others resolve this also. And of course, then there was beautiful, beautiful personal meetings. But at the end, Baba again spoke about global cooperation for a better world. The first project was major, it was international, Million Minutes of Peace Appeal. And then it was actually the UN who asked us to host the second project. We were given that label, Peace Messenger, and we were then asked to do a Peace Messenger initiative. And so global cooperation became that. And I was talking about the fun and games we were having in creating something, changing it around, and spending many, many hours in discussion, working our way through all the ifs and buts. Not only was it America, Africa, so all the Americas, and then Africa, then Europe, UK, then also it was the southern region, the Pacific region, Australia, New Zealand. It was soon after we had started global cooperation that Russia came on board, but until that time, it hadn't yet started there. We had a contact who had been part of the Million Minutes, but that was from the very official government body that had participated for the International Year of Peace. But there wasn't actually any center or any Brahmins there yet. They came later. But at this point, can you imagine all these different cultures coming together? And of course, this time around with global cooperation, it was with the addition of Bharat. And so that brought a whole different dynamic onto the scene, both in terms of numbers, the numbers in Bharat were already huge, but also in terms of attitude, perception, and what sort of results are we looking for? So it was a lot of fun and games, and Baba was pleased. Baba saying that all the plans you're making, yes, they'll take practical shape. They have been taking shape so far, and these will also take practical shape. But also Baba saying how if you have a balance in terms of the thinking, and yes, it's great to have a planning intellect. Baba loves those children who use their intellects for planning and for service. But on the one side, Baba's appreciating that, but on the other side, Baba's reminding us, apart from the plans, also experience the plain yoga. That stage of yoga in which other things are not interfering. So when you sit for yoga, you're not thinking about plans, you're not thinking about programs or projects. It's just Baba. And if you manage to keep this balance of planning, yes, but also with that connection with Baba, and then also the time for your own stage, the yoga that's needed for that, then of course you receive many, many blessings. And so this perfect balance will ensure that you're accumulating blessings, and these blessings are going to continue right till the end, the role of service. So when Baba said that this means that the Bhandari and Bhandara will be constantly flowing, constantly open, and Bhandara also means kitchen. And so yes, you've seen Madhuban kitchen. The first fire is lit at 2:30 a.m. so that tea for thousands of people can be ready by 3:30, and people can come and have their chai or their coffee and then go for Amrit Vela. And so just as that is open from early morning all the way through till definitely 11:30 at night, so practically non-stop. In the same way, the Bhandara of service is constantly going to be open and be filled with blessings right until the end. So there'll always be some form of service or another. And one very specific aspect I want to take up from the individual blessings, Baba talking about service in different ways. Service through the mind, service through words, and service through actions. And so service through the mind, use pure, powerful thoughts to send out Sakash to the world, and the result, you are filled with that inner experience of happiness. You can feel that your thoughts in Baba's yad have reached others and given them that help. And then in words, Baba said, many do service through words, and that's fine, it's good. But yet, if you've done service in the right consciousness, then that is the highest form of service, because then souls have been given some attainment and fruit. And Baba really speaking to Karmana Seva, the service of action, the service of through the body. And Baba saying that that is a very, very elevated form of service. And so when you're doing service with your body, then this is what brings you the visible fruit, the visible return. You've made a good meal, whether it's for 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, but people are appreciative. And so they're expressing that appreciation. One person's giving a lecture somewhere, and maybe they're speaking to 1,000 people. But the person who's doing karma yoga, people are appreciating that instantly, immediately, whether it's a small family or a big Madhuban family, they're experiencing such blessings that they, from their heart, are giving blessings to the one who has done that karma seva, that physical exercise of hard work of yoga. And so I thought it was very lovely that Baba never allows anyone to feel that they are less than anyone else, Baba's elevating each one to their own highest stage and saying, what you're doing is great. Keep doing it. Carry on doing it. So Baba has this beautiful ability to acknowledge and recognize the speciality of absolutely every single part of the family. You've seen this in past Murlis also, but in this, it seems that it was somebody who's more engaged in karma yoga than other types of service. And so Baba really showering so much love and elevating their consciousness to the very highest. So these are some of the highlights from the very short one-page Murli we had, and then the short passage on global cooperation. The success of global cooperation actually was that Baba gave it his special attention. Everything began in Madhuban, continued in Madhuban, and the final step also was Madhuban. Every step along the way, Madhuban was involved. Baba was involved, all the blessings that came our way from that, Baba was sharing that, but also the dadis were integrally involved in that whole journey of that particular project. So very lovely memories of that also. And those souls who had that experience of meeting Baba personally, of course, those memories are very, very much treasured by those souls. I'm sure many of those of you who are listening now are part of those fortunate souls who did have that opportunity. Om Shanti.
Thank you, gentlemen. So actually, this is one question in the chat. If you could just maybe briefly explain Global Cooperation House project and what was involved, maybe a little bit about Million Minutes that led to Global Cooperation.
Okay. At the end of December 85, we knew that the UN had designated the next year, 1986, as the International Year of Peace, and NGOs were going to be invited to submit their ideas for any project. At the end of December, a group of people in Australia were Brahmins, were driving down to the beach. It was summertime, Christmas time, and one of the persons in the car suddenly said, "Million Minutes of Peace." And it was a very catchy phrase. And so Charlie wrote to what later became the RC officers, the regional coordinator officers. They didn't exist at that time, but he knew the UN office, London, where Dadi was, and so on and so on. So he sent out a message that one of the brothers has this idea that we could do something connected with 1,000,000 minutes of peace. And I immediately phoned Charlie and said, "But how would that work? What sort of project it is?" And he laughed and said, "Well, we haven't given it any time yet. We haven't thought about it any further." And the UN office also, Baba's office, hadn't given it detailed attention. Everybody was busy with many things. But a little group got together in London and we worked on that idea. And one of the things that we wanted was that just the year before, it had been the appeal for Africa. I think it was a famine in Ethiopia. And there was the whole project of Band Aid. And this very famous band was going to collect money to donate to Africa, to Ethiopia. And one person in that group mentioned that, you know, people like to give something. They feel that they have a lot, and how do they give the return of that, whether it's the universe, destiny, or God? Can we do something in which we involve people, in which they're giving something? And of course, we all knew that we weren't asking people to donate money. That's not what Baba's work is about at all. So what would they donate? And as we churned, it must have been Baba's presence with us, Dadi's presence with us, and the idea emerged. We would want people to donate a minute of silence. And we knew that certainly in the UK and Western Europe generally, God wasn't so much in the picture. And maybe some countries were focused on prayer, some countries on meditation, but some with nothing. And so we thought that people could donate minutes of silence for peace, either through prayer or through meditation or through positive thoughts. So we weren't prescriptive, we just offered these three things. And of course, that collected 1 billion plus minutes, and the project reached 88 countries, even though we existed at that time in around 60 countries, but the project reached beyond where we had centers into 88 countries. And as a result of that, I'm giving you the bare bones, but a lot of discussions, a lot of ins and outs. But finally, then we decided to use that month between the International Day of Peace and the UN Day of Peace. That time period was going to be the time where it was going to be people giving minutes, and we were collecting minutes, and it was quite an amazing thing. Parliament gave minutes of peace. The different leaders of the 3 political parties at that time had their conferences, and they let the whole conference be silent. School assemblies gave minutes of peace. So it was a huge number we collected. And India didn't participate. They hadn't quite understood what the project was all about, but somehow it captured the imagination of people. It became the largest peace project for the International Year of Peace, organized by an NGO. And we were all exhausted at the end of that project. We had a grand finale. The opening that we had in London was at the Houses of Parliament, and then the finale was in New York at St. John's Cathedral. And that's where Canon Casson came very close to us. And he's played a beautiful role in service ever since. So it was quite an amazing thing that happened. But together with that, we were all physically exhausted. And it happened without any budget. Somebody gave us a flat in a very exclusive part of London, St. John's Wood. And she said, use it for as long as you need for this project. And it was like an office for us. And Baba got 7 Peace Messenger Awards for that. 1 international one for Mount Abu, so Dadi Prakash when he came to New York to collect that, and 6 other countries, Brazil, Trinidad, the UK, Mauritius, and I think Costa Rica, Australia. Different countries got individual Peace Messenger Awards also. And on the back of that, we invited James Jonah, who was the Assistant Secretary General responsible for what then was described as the Peace Studies Unit. He came to Madhuban the following year for a conference, and then he asked to meet the Dadis, and we took him along, and all 3 Dadis were there, and Sister Gayatri and myself were there. Moini Ben and Dr. Nirmala were there. So it was quite a gathering in that room, Dadiji's meeting hall in Pandav Bhavan. And what he said to the Dadis was, the UN has asked me if the Brahma Kumaris could host a peace messenger initiative. And they looked at us and we were going like this. And the Dadis looked at each other, and James was aware of what we were going to say, but he wanted to hear what the Dadis had to say. And the Dadis said, well, we always say yes for any service opportunity that comes. We never say no. And so there we were stuck. And so Baba then, this was 1987. Then through that year, you've heard other Murlis about Global Cooperation for a Better World. And in Hindi, it was translated as Sukhamay Sansar. Sarva ke sahayog se Sukhamay Sansar. So a little bit of a different translation, but that's the terminology they were using. And that was, again, very interesting. And it took a lot of discussion. And the instruction came from Baba, you must create a bank. And banks were giving people a very hard time around then. From time to time it happens, but especially at that time. And what happened was we got a message from Baba, and Dadi Gulzar phoned me. I was back in London by then. And Baba is saying that there should be some type of bank in which you accumulate something. And the instant reaction was, nobody likes the word bank. But Dadi Gulzar, I had to call her back. This is the response of the group. But she said, no, this is definitely what Baba is saying. So we came up then with the idea of what sort of cooperation are we expecting people to give? And the idea came that if we could have people think about their vision of a better world, secondly, how they see relationships in that better world, and thirdly, how they see themselves in that better world, then on the basis of these three questions, they would share with us their visions, and that would be their donation to this bank of global cooperation. And you can imagine it took a lot of discussion, a lot of thrashing out, and all sorts of discussions. So this is why Baba was saying that you spend 4 hours, but instead of that, with yoga, you'll spend 1 hour. We got better and better at it, but it took time. But one of the things that we did, because it was in small groups, and within those groups, we would say, okay, one of the golden rules is that you only use positive language. For example, if my vision is of a world without war, well, that's a negative statement. Can I turn it around and say, my vision is of a peaceful world? And it's incredible. Sometimes it took people, a small group of 6 or 8 people, and we'd be going around the circle. And it would sometimes take people about 20 minutes, maybe a bit longer, to start understanding what it meant to give a positive vision instead of a negative vision. Surprising, isn't it? But that was the actual experience. But also, we would say no negative language at all. But also the final question, what can you do today to create a better world? A family in Greece was talking about harmony in their home, and a family that's happy is going to create a happy world, things like this. So then the question came, well, what action can you take today? And they came up with a plan. In their home, they would have one room, their sitting room, where they all gathered in the evenings, but that would be a no complaints zone. So only happy conversation there, which was brilliant. Then a woman in Japan, she wrote that her vision was of green areas, green space, beautiful environment. You can see it's very connected to their situation and culture and geography and everything. And then the question came, well, what can you do to make that happen? Because there was this idea of space, of freedom, and so on and so on. And so she said, I'm going to create one corner in my home, which is only for me, where I can be completely free, and I can meditate, and I can dream and have visions of a better world. And so the flats in Tokyo, literally postage stamps. And so she couldn't have a room, but she could have a little space that she had curtained off. Shoe shine boys in Brazil, they said, instead of stealing each other's brushes, we are going to cooperate, and I'll lend my brushes to other children in the group. Beautiful things that came that were very, very heartwarming. So those visions were very powerful. And we had an international committee. Every country had a national committee of patrons. So a couple of Brahmins, but many non-Brahmins. And we had princes and princesses and queens join the whole project. The Queen of Spain invited Dadi Prakashmani to come and meet her when Dadi came abroad. So amazing things were happening. It was God's magic. Baba was touching souls and moving things, like Baba said, you know, leave it to Baba. If you're finding something difficult, just tell Baba. Baba will take care of it. It was magical things that were happening in this way. Again, the launch was at the Houses of Parliament, and we had top celebrities participate in that. Really amazing things. And out of the responses that came through, what we did was create what we called the people's vision. And then the project went on, and that was based on values, because that's what came out from everywhere, values-based. And we also wanted people to actually act out their vision, or to sing songs, or have poetry or prose, or have a program that would celebrate the end of the project, the finale. And so beautiful things were sent in. It took us several months to sift through all of that and come up with the summary, finally, which was then the global vision. And the people who were the project patrons from across the world, they came to Madhuban. They came from the USA, they came from the Philippines, from all over the world. And it was an amazing gathering. And it was this gathering that was then in front of Baba at some point also. So really powerful things happened in those days. Baba not only was giving blessings to individuals and giving them that boost to move forward in terms of Baba's double foreign children, but Baba's vision was very much focused on service outside the whole world, so that Bharat had been served so well, but now Baba himself was serving the wider world, and it just made sure that things moved very, very fast. So that's an idea, a small glimpse. There's a whole book that's been published, and I'm sure in every country, your national office would have that, and you could have a look at it.
Yeah, thank you so much, gentlemen. So kind of in relation to that, Baba said in this Murli that if anything is difficult, Bap Dada will make it easy. To use your intellect is also a blessing. But gentlemen, sometimes, I don't know what you think, but I think sometimes when one uses their intellect too much in Gyan, it kind of becomes a exit for the soul, because, you know, I think the intellect tries to be too smart and they end up leaving Baba. So, yeah.
Okay, the context of this is exactly what I was sharing a few minutes earlier. Baba was saying that you're using your intellects for planning. And so planning service is very different to churning what if, maybe this, maybe that, maybe the other, or even using your intellect, as you say, trying to say, but you know, why Baba has said this, why did Baba say this, or why did Dadi say this, where you're trying to pull Gyan apart Baba has said something, it has significance. And so let me spend my time in silence with humility, appreciating these are the words of the Almighty. Let me spend my time with humility, reflecting on this, and maybe then I'll be able to understand why Baba is saying this. Otherwise, it's exactly as you say, I think I'm being very clever, very smart, but I'm actually using the intellect to cut my own feet. I'm not moving forward with this, but to use my intellect for Baba's service, planning intellect. And Baba said, Baba loves those children. You're keeping yourself out of mischief. You're keeping your mind happily busy in Baba's service. And so Baba's going to give you blessings for that. So it's very, very different situations. So this is why it's good you asked about the whole project, because it was very much part of that project. How do we put across this message to others? And even when we were using this word vision, at that time, remember this is 88, when we said within the group, a number of us said, create your vision of a better world, and that's your donation to the Global Bank. A few people reacted to the word vision, and they said, no, we don't want to use the word vision. And of course, a couple of years later, every corporation, every business had within its scheme what is purpose, what is mission, and what is vision. And so Baba was touching intellects and using intellects to plan things. But there were some who would go a different direction, and then there would be, like Baba was saying, you spend 4 hours making and breaking and adjusting and finishing. And then as we came closer, so the time that we were spending in creating something was less and less, and a lot more began to get done. But yes, if you're just using your intellect to pull out bones from the Gyan, instead of understanding, this is why Baba often says, do you realize who is speaking? And so when you have that faith of the one who is actually saying these things to us, then first there's acceptance, and then there's experience, and the detail becomes clear.
So again, just in a few words, gentlemen, what is going on? Is it the ego? Is it I'm justifying my laziness? Is it lack of contentment? Why is there the questions, just in essence?
Questions about Gyan, which are totally irrelevant and unnecessary, leading me into blind alleyways, that is ego. Questions where things are happening around me and I'm challenging those, I'm not accepting the drama in that way, then in that sense, it's my lack of adaptability, my lack of synchronicity with drama. Drama is going this way, and instead of saying drama is accurate, let me go with the flow, I'm saying, no, it should be this way, it should be that way. And I'm fighting, I'm struggling. And partly it's ego, but it's also this lack of acceptance of being able to go with the flow. I think it should be this way, but things are going this way. And so I can't take it, I can't accept it. So different reasons why we get stuck. And ultimately it's body consciousness and ego, but also it may be lack of acceptance, and also it may be sometimes my control issues. I want things to go a certain way, they're not going that way. And so I'm upset, I'm disappointed, and I'm discontent. So different things can happen.
Right, thank you, gentlemen. Gentlemen, yesterday I was having yoga and I was talking to Baba, and I was thinking that those days have gone where, like you also mentioned that, you asked Baba about the project. And in those days, we used to ask Baba about many things. And yesterday I was thinking, well, gentlemen, what is a good way to get acknowledgement from Baba that you're on the right track? I mean, many of us, the oldies, have had that personal experience, but those who don't have that now don't have that access, and particularly, I was thinking all these personal blessings that Baba gave. Many have not had that chance now. So how can they experience a personal blessing now?
Different things. Firstly, if things I think are going well with my gyan, my yoga, my relationships, service, all of these things, my dharana, then when I sit in front of Baba, I can feel Baba's love reaching me. And the fact that I'm experiencing Baba's love, I'm able to catch it and feel it. That's a very, very good acknowledgement that I'm on track. And where sometimes I think I'm doing fine, but when I sit in front of Baba, I'm not experiencing that love reach me genuinely. And so that should be a very big signal that things are not as I thought they were. And there has to be something that I have to explore and sort out so that then I can get back to that stage where I can feel Baba's love reaching me. And then there's the situation where, like the one that I mentioned today from the personal meetings. Now, that blessing about karma yoga. Now, if I'm a karma yogi, then can I take this blessing as something for me? And what Baba's talking about here is karma yoga can be very elevated. Karma yoga can bring you immediate fruit of great happiness. But you have to recognize the value of who you are and what you're doing and who you're doing it for. If I'm doing karma yoga simply because I'm asked to do it, well, it's never going to bring me that joy and that upliftment. And yes, somebody may ask me, but I really do it with my heart, feeling that it's my fortune to be able to do this. This is something I know how to do. I'm being offered the opportunity to do it in Baba's house. Then my happiness, the degree of that just goes shooting up. And if I do it with that love, of course, it's going to be with a big smile, and it's going to be with a sense of joy and fortune and the radiance that that generates and creates within whatever it is I do, whether it's cleaning, whether it's cooking, whether it's typing. Sometimes, you have to type and type and type, do administration for hours and hours. But who am I doing it for? I'm not doing it for a human being. I'm doing it with love for Baba, but I also know I'm creating my fortune. So take any blessing that resonates with you as your own personal blessing. The third thing that I want to say is that, and this is something that he was asked in Paris, Lady Gulzar, when she was there for the last time, a long time ago, whenever that was, I think maybe 2010. It was maybe 2010 that Daddy was in Paris around that time. So there's a big hall. We were having all the classes there. It was like a retreat, but in the center of the city. And the Brahmins had accommodated and found accommodation, hired accommodation for about 300 people. People from France, people from neighboring countries were there. And Nadi was asked the question, how come we don't have the opportunity to have blessings in the way those who came earlier did? And Dadi's response was very lovely. Dadi Gulzar said, what you're reading in each day's Murli is a blessing for you, if you take it that way. But it's like a seed. And so hold the seed in your mind, but keep watering it with love, giving it attention. And if you keep watering it with love, giving it attention, that seed is going to germinate and it's going to flower. And so your attention to each day's Murli and practicing what Baba has said in the blessing will make it come true for you. So the seeds are being scattered all over the world, but how many actually allow them to stay and take root and water them so that then they can start sprouting and bearing fruit? And we sort of see those blessings in our lives. So different ways to approach this, but certainly this third one is something that everybody can take up and experience. Try it.
Yes, it's true, gentlemen. I think with knowledge, whoever can work with it and make use of it, then it works for them. So yeah, I agree with that. Okay, we move to all the general questions. One of them is how to accumulate. When Baba says accumulate the power of silence, what does he mean?
Think about a child's piggy bank. You're putting in pennies, and by the end of the week or by the end of the month or the end of the year, it's quite a good amount that has been accumulated. And so again, something from Dadi Gulzar, she had said to us that maybe you do your morning meditation, you do your evening meditation, but through the day, you don't actually have time to sit down for any length of or period of time. So even if you have a few minutes very sincerely through the day in traffic control, then those few minutes, and not even just traffic control, any other time that you're waiting at the bus stop, you're waiting for a train, you're waiting for somebody to come, instead of, drumming your fingers, how long are they going to be, when are they going to come, why are they keeping me waiting? No, it's an opportunity for me. And so just simply use your mind to connect with Baba, go into silence, and it's a few minutes, maybe 1 minute. But the experience it gives you personally is that it fills you with power, spiritual power. And so you've put in 1 minute's worth, 3 minutes worth of silence power into your little box, and you're beginning to accumulate. And the accumulation will be visible for you. You'll feel how you're becoming more and more content and full, and how everything seems to be happening in a much more smoother way than before. And so as you practice doing this, there'll be a transformation.
Nice, thank you. Why is it that Sakar Baba was strict and disciplinary, whereas Avyakt Baba is so loving and caring and motherly? Any thoughts?
Sometimes people feel it's the other way, that Brahma Baba and Shiv Baba speaking the Sakar Murli make it so natural, so light, so easy. And yes, Baba is pointing out that I'm also Dharamraj. And yes, these are the principles that you have to follow. And if you don't follow them, what's going to be your future? So that was the preparation of the understanding of Gyan, the understanding of yoga, of service, of dharana. And so the ground was being prepared and laid. It's the foundation. But without that powerful foundation, there could be nothing further. And then Baba himself experiencing and practicing and sharing with us all those experiences, and Baba flies away. And then Baba seeing that Shiv Baba, that the children are absolutely lost. And so Shiv Baba comes and tells his children, it's okay. I'm going to come and keep meeting you and sustain you and entertain you. And so the Avyakt Murlis begin. And then again, that first time it's only Shiv Baba, and Shiv Baba's like the commander of the army. There's love, but there's also a lot of information for what will be happening over the next 50 plus years. The whole blueprint is laid out for us to follow. And then within the Avyakt Murlis, Baba is very clear. Why is Baba talking about the stars who fall? Baba's telling us there are some who do that. Why is Baba telling us, what about the stars with a tail? Where am I? Am I one of those? So Avyakt Baba is very explicit. And Baba is categorizing number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 in many, many Murlis. Or maybe sometimes Baba just says 1 and 2. And then says, well, I leave it to your imagination to understand what the rest is like. So actually, Avyakt Baba-Dada's language is deeply spiritual. It's not ordinary language like Sakar Baba. So Avyakt Baba's language is very profoundly spiritual. But Baba's messages, yes, the first part is love and upliftment and empowerment. But as the Murli goes on, Baba's explaining about the mistakes we make, about the Maya, the illusions that come our way, the distractions we experience. Baba is very, very explicit and clear. So sometimes we don't catch the depth of it. And so we think, oh, that was a lovely Murli. And it was a lovely Murli, but it was also a very, very powerful message. But I didn't actually grasp it. And I didn't understand what I needed to do. So Avyakt Baba is, of course, not talking about omnipresence. And so Baba's, or the God of the Gita, because Baba's assuming that, well, if you're a Brahmin, then you'd understand all those things. And Baba doesn't need to repeat any of that. That's your Gyan foundation. Now, further, what do you need? You need yoga and you need dharana. You've understood the Gyan. You've understood the mechanism of yoga, but what are the stages of yoga? What are the depths of that experience? How can you come to that stage? What is the Karmatit stage? What is the Avyakt stage? We were hearing these words and we were seeing Baba, Brahma Baba move forward and attain his stage, but we weren't doing it ourselves. And so Avyakt Baba needed to explain. These are the things that Baba used to practice. This is why you saw this result. And so this is the method and this is the result. And so Avyakt Baba is very clear, very explicit. And in fact, the Murlis are actually stronger than the Sakar Murlis. But we don't always understand because Baba's style of speaking and the language is quite different.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have a few questions, if you could maybe just give brief answers. So what does super sensuous joy feel like, and can we feel it all the time?
Yes, you can feel it all the time. You saw the Dadi sparkle with super sensuous joy. It means a joy which is beyond the senses and inner experience, but it's also then reflected through the senses. So my eyes reflect that happiness, the words I speak are of happiness, the actions I perform are to share happiness with others. So.
And there's a couple of questions around how do you foresee future service, Sister Jayanti? Do you think we will be doing mega programs? And one person is saying we miss the joy of working in those mega programs.
There was a lot of joy, a lot of pressure, a lot of dancing of sanskars. So all of that happened, and a huge amount of money. So yes, I'm sure there will be some mega programs, especially in Bharat. But abroad, I think that we might not be doing big mega events, but rather smaller sneh milans, loving gatherings with others. But also I see that media is definitely the way that God's message is going to reach the world. And so whether it's online programs in which multi-thousands can come together, or whether it's Zoom classes for a specific group or whatever, or public events that many can join. So, for example, Diwali in the square is taking place this year hybrid. So the organizers are going to be there in the square, but everything else for the vast public is going to be on screen. And so they're working that whole program out. So I can see that where it used to be a huge amount of expense for all the things that happened in Trafalgar Square, the Greater London Council really took care of the huge budget for that. But now it's going to be different, but it's still going to reach multi thousands. So more of that.
Okay, last question. Gentlemen, can you explain what exactly is Satopradhan?
Satopradhan is total purity. Purity in my thoughts, in my attitude, in my vision, in my speaking, my doing, my relationships, my relationship with humans, with nature, nature completely pure and in its perfect state. So the very beginning, that stage of sparkling purity and total beauty, that is Satopradhan, soul and body, the being as well as matter on all levels.
So can we experience that now, gentlemen? Or it's something for the future?
Today I can experience the inner beauty and the inner purity, but I can't experience the purity of this body. I can't experience the purity of fruits and flowers and the veggies that we get today. You try hard and even organic, but they're not so pure, they're not so wholesome. So no, you don't experience it today.
Right. Regarding some of the questions, I want to say that perhaps you'd like to listen to some of the past revisions, because some of those questions have been taken up before. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Sister Jayanti. We will have meditation now.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
बाबा मेरी यादों को सीने में समा लेना, बाबा मेरी यादों को सीने में समा लेना, बस तुझ में ही खो जाऊं, यूं गले से लगा लेना, बाबा मेरी यादों को सीने में समा लेना, बाबा मेरी को सीने में समा लेना। संसार से क्या हासिल, एक बाबा अपना है, संसार